In previous video, we saw how websites handle millions of requests by just adding more servers and deploying microservices. But how the fuck is that even possible? Okay, what if we have two servers and a load balancer which alternatively sends requests to either server? A user adds an item to their cart that is stored in memory of this server. But upon refreshing, he gets an empty cart because the request gets redirected to another server. The mistake the developer made here is storing the state on a single node. And if you have watched the last part, you might have already figured out the solution. Instead of your server gatekeeping the cart items in its RAM, everyone shares a central lightning fast cache database. And congratulations, you just unlocked two new items. Stateless architecture, because no state is being stored on a single server. By offloading state to an external shared database, we can effortlessly horizontally scale our applications. The second thing you just unlocked is Redis, a sub-millisecond in-memory central cache. If you store frequently accessed data temporarily in Redis, you reduce latency and database load at some server cost. We'll get into the details in later videos. However, what will shock you is that there exist two more solutions to this problem. See, instead of paying for an additional cache, why not just store clients' data in their own system? And to that you would say, but that would make it susceptible to client tampering the data or launching injection or CSRF attacks. And to that I say absolutely correct, my friend. In fact, such vulnerabilities still keep coming up to this day. And yet, it remains a very popular choice because of how cheap, fast and convenient it is to implement. It is totally safe if done right. But also note that you are allowed to store very less data in that cookie jar. And more storage comes with more security risks. Like this may have happened to you that you added some cart items from your laptop, close it, then check the cart from your mobile and the card is gone. Again, a downside of this approach. The third solution that you might have also thought of is to include an IP hash before the requests hit the servers. This is a linear time solution that always reroutes a client's request to the same server, and you get to keep your stateful application now. But if you're paying attention, as you must be, you might realize that this solution might end up heavily loading a single server while the others are chill. And when you take VPNs into account, which masks hundreds or even thousands of people behind the same IP, this scenario stops being a rare edge case anymore. On top of that, you still have your stateful problems, like if one server dies, you lose all of its data. Brilliant. Now this is the systems level thinking of critically analyzing trade-offs that I want you to inherit. No approach is inherently the best, it's just a game of priorities. And if you remember the last video, you might recognize that this is actually very similar to a load balancer. And this is because it is in fact one of the several load balancing strategies. In stateless servers, however, you can just use round-robin scheduling where you distribute requests like cards in a poker game. But this is far from perfect, as it doesn't care about the load, health and capacities of each server. If one is overloaded, it will keep receiving requests. And also, not all requests are created equally. Some take 1 millisecond while your mom takes 30 years. So how about least connection strategy, where you assign requests to database with least connections, or weighted round robin, or resource aware adapted routing, or exponential weighted moving average latency smoothing? Or how about recording lava lamps footage on a camera to create a true random number generator and using that to assign connections at perfect random chance to any server? And if you think I'm joking, well, hold your breath, because this is exactly what Cloudflare does, the sponsor of this. No, just kidding, guys. Now, I won't dive into this tangent right now, it's a video on its own. But speaking of Cloudflare, you might have been seeing this screen a lot recently. And yes, this is another item you are just going to unlock next by the name of Reverse Proxy. Well, the naming gets really confusing in a little bit, so I need your full attention right now, okay? I really hope YouTube doesn't put an automatic ad during this segment. So this screen right here is a firewall. It parses all the incoming requests and ensures no bots crawl up and steal your precious data. And this is an example of reverse proxy. And god, it took me so long to understand the difference between forward and reverse proxy, even though it's just as simple as forward proxy sits in front of your client like a VPN and reverse proxy sits in front of your server like a load balancer. Like, it's just that simple. Why do people have to yap and complicate it so much? Okay. Anyways, so reverse proxy can be used for the following task, okay? 1. Applying security guards and SSL, which can be CPU intensive for servers, so you outsource them to another server. Also include firewalls. 2. Distributing load evenly, also called load balancers. 3. A globally distributed reverse proxy that routes users to your servers. But here's the catch. See, the majority, if not an overwhelmingly large amount of your server requests are often made for static assets like HTML, CSS, JavaScript and images. So it would make a lot of sense to also store these static assets at initial edge locations. And congratulations, you just unlocked Content Delivery Network, also called CDNs. If CDN doesn't find the requested data, it falls back to the main servers, naturally. Your CDN can be a normal typical server like EC2 or S3. If you don't know what that is, we'll cover it later. Or from specialized CDN vendors like AWS CloudFront, Cloudflare and Akamai. And fun fact, you can buy global CDN and regional CDN services. I know this CDN segment is just getting way too much screen time right now, but let's just pick up a perspective we haven't touched yet. Cyber security. One of the biggest fears of any company is DDoS attack. An attack where hackers bomb servers from IPs all around the world, making it nearly and at times completely impossible to distinguish them from actual users. Hell, hackers might even be using your personal laptop's IP for DDoSing Netflix right now and you wouldn't even know. Some knowledge to brag to your friends about, huh? Well, how about you press the subscribe button first? It's one of the primitive hacking methods that doesn't have a solution to this day. And CDNs being the first point of contact has to deal with DDoS right then and there. Which is why every CDN vendor today provides DDoS protection and SSL certificates along with caching your data. So now you know what the whole deal about CDNs is. Great, we can finally proceed. Fourth use case of reverse proxy is routing internal traffic, like routing requests to correct microservices or separating public and private APIs, or even routing requests to correct services inside of a microservice. And congratulations, you just unlocked an API gateway. But modern gateways do a lot more than that, like authenticating users right then and there, so not every single endpoint in your backend has to do so. They also have features like rate limiting your traffic to something like 100 requests per minute for an IP to prevent server overload and DOS attacks. Nowadays, people interchangeably use the terms reverse proxy, API gateway and load balancers because most tools provide everything in one box, as they should. Let's unlock the most popular and open source reverse proxy tool, Nginx, for example. It was primarily just a reverse proxy, but now it provides authentication, rate limiting, caching, load balancing, filtering, sessioning, version handling, analytics and even more with plugins. AWS, being the spawn of the devil, offered distinct services to suck out as much money as possible. Well, jokes aside, it does make more sense to have separate layers. So what we typically see in practical cases is something like this. We start with a CDN that handles basic caching, DDoS and SSL. It's followed by an API gateway that authorizes, limits rates, monitors and routes traffic to correct services. Only after that, we want a load balancer, typically one for each service. And then for each service, we might need specific reverse proxies. But before you implement this architecture for your to-do app, ask yourself if just a CDN would be enough for this task. Alright, I know you are very excited, so let's just assume your mom happens to be a secret genius at marketing and your to-do app blows up. You probably won't need an API gateway for the 4 CRUD APIs you have. A basic round-robin load balancer, serverless backend, a Redis cache, and a CDN would be great to cache all the static text. But hold on right there. A to-do app is not a note app. The contents are ephemeral, constantly changing, so probably no point of using CDN's cache. Okay, so hear me out. How about a CDN that stores dynamic elements of your app, not just static, like basic authentication or get API endpoints? And congratulations, you just unlocked edge computing. But not so quick. A user in Jakarta, that is thousands of kilometers away from your EC2 servers in Mumbai, might get their shit done quicker while edging in Jakarta. But you still cannot connect them to your database because that's situated in Mumbai, and then it destroys the whole purpose of edging so hard. So a group of edgelords came together to birth a global Redis that resolves this exact problem by providing their own key value stores that you can deploy on your edge servers. So your edging streak doesn't stop. Now I know this is suddenly a lot to take in, but like not really, come on. It's fairly simple stuff. I just want to introduce you guys to all of our cast members as quickly as possible so we can dive into the real juicy part of how we practically design and deploy microservices across the entire world. I know I have been edging you guys for 2 episodes at this point, but I promise we'll get there in the next video if I hit 50,000 subscribers. Yes, I'm doing these cheap tricks now. Got a problem with that? Huh? Just look at the graph. And thanks for watching, Manware.